Welcome to this video. So in today's video we are going to discuss about Southern hybridization. Now Southern hybridization is a molecular method that is used to identify DNA of interest from a mixture of DNA samples. So suppose you are given a mixture of DNA molecules, or suppose you have a whole genomic DNA. So from that, using this technique, you can find out whether a specific stage of DNA or molecule of DNA or a specific sequence of DNA that is present within the given sample or not. So that is the purpose of this particular technique, to find out whether a gene of interest or a marker, if that is present in the given sample or not. So this technique was developed by an English molecular biologist by name Dr. Edwin M. Southern in 1975, and this technique has been named Southern blotting in his honor. As this technique has been developed to identify or detect a DNA molecule, same wise there are some other techniques which are also used to identify or detect let's say RNA molecules or protein molecules. So all these techniques, they were developed after the Southern blotting. So that's why, to keep the parity, they are named as Northern blotting or Southern or Western blotting. Suppose Northern blotting for RNA, Western blotting for protein, and so on. So this has got nothing to do with sites, that is protein will be selected on separated on the west side, or DNA will be separated on the south side. It's not like that. It's entirely for the namesake, that is as the Southern blotting was developed at first and it was named after Dr. Southern. So that's why, to keep the parity, the other name has been done as Northern blotting, Western blotting, and so on. Okay, so now let's see how this technique is being performed. So for this, very first step is the extraction and subsequent purification of the total genomic DNA. So first, the total genomic DNA is isolated. Now for this, there are multiple different processes by which this can be done, and also nowadays a number of different kits are available which can isolate or extract the total genomic DNA from any biological sample. In the next step, restriction endonuclease is used, which cleaves this whole genomic DNA into small fragments. So that is the next step, using restriction, the digestion using restriction endonuclease, which is called as restriction digestion. So this creates small fragments out of the whole total genomic DNA. Next step, these different fragments of DNA molecules, they are separated based on their size and molecular weight. So as you know, in agarose gel electrophoresis, the DNA bands or DNA fragments, they are separated based on their molecular weight and charge. So if for any given lane, if you go down the lane, the size of each of the fragments starts to decrease. So this one is the biggest and this one is the smallest, or this one is the highest, this one is the smallest, and so on. So now next, these DNA samples, they undergo certain chemical changes. So the first one is called as depurination. Now as you know, depurination is basically the purines. These are the nucleotides adenine and guanine. So in this technique, that parts, which is also called as partial depurination, in this diluted HCl is used, which basically breaks down the DNA into small pieces further. Now this one is very important for the subsequent steps of Southern blotting, as because this promotes the high efficiency of the transfer of these DNA molecules from the agarose gel to nitrocellulose membrane. Next, these small DNA fragments, they undergo denaturation. Now denaturation is performed using any alkali solution, like mild alkali. For example, this solution of NaOH, sodium hydroxide, is used for this. So what happens? During this is, as you know, DNA is double stranded. So by this denaturation, basically by this action of this NaOH, this double stranded DNA, they become single stranded. Now this again is important for the subsequent steps, because when the probes will come and bind to it, they cannot bind to double stranded DNA molecules. So they need single stranded molecules. So from that point of view, this step is very important. And next, there is something called as neutralization, which is achieved by NaCl, sodium chloride treatment. Now this particular treatment or this particular technique is important so that these DNA molecules which are now single stranded, obviously they have a tendency to rehybridize, to renature, to stop the single stranded DNA to from renaturing. For that, this neutralization is being done using sodium chloride. Now next step is the transfer of these DNA molecules from this DNA fragments rather from this agarose gel into the nitrocellulose membrane. Now here the important question is, what is the importance of transferring these DNA molecules from agarose gel to nitrocellulose membrane? So the main problem here is that this agarose, this is very much agarose gel rather, this is very much heat sensitive. So if the temperature during this experiment rises above 45 degree, then this gel will turn to melt away, and thereby you will start to lose the DNA fragments. And the temperature during this technique can go up to as high as 80 degrees centigrade. So that's why this DNA fragments are being transferred into another membrane. Nitrocellulose membrane is generally used for this. So that is relatively far less heat sensitive, and they remain stable at approximately 80 degrees centigrade. So that is number one reason. Number two reason is, as you know, this DNA, they get embedded within this agarose gel, and when the probes will come and bind with these DNA fragments. Now if the DNA molecules are embedded within the agarose gel, then the this probes won't be able to come and bind with it. On the other hand, if you see the nitrocellulose membrane, on that DNA molecules, they are present on the surface rather than within it. So that's why here, if they are present within the nitrocellulose membrane, then it is easier, or it is possible rather, for the oligonucleotides or the probes to come and bind to it. So now this is the assembly for this transfer of DNA molecules. So this whole thing is kept in an, let's say, assume this is an Petri plate. Onto this is a stage, and a buffer is kept on this. So on top of that, these are filter paper. One stack of filter paper or tissue paper is kept here, and it has to be kept in mind that both ends of this stack of tissue paper or filter paper, they should be dipped within this buffer. On top of that, this is the agarose gel. On top of that, nitrocellulose membrane is kept, and on top of that, there is another stack of this tissue paper or filter paper. On top of that, you have the paper towel stack here, and then you keep a glass plate, and on top of that there is a weight is placed. So this is the whole assembly. Now the concept here is that, as because the ends of this filter paper or tissue paper is dipped in this, so this buffer will be passed through these things by the capillary action, and by that action only the DNA fragments which are present here in this present here in the agarose gel, they will be transferred into this nitrocellulose membrane. So that is the concept behind this particular step, and this assembly is kept like this overnight for a period of 8 hours to 12 hours for this transfer or blotting to take place. Next, after the overnight incubation is over, then this nitrocellulose membrane is taken out from this assembly, and there is another step which is called as baking, in which basically this nitrocellulose membrane is baked in vacuum or in oven at approximately 80 degrees centigrade. So, and also this step can be done in presence of UV as well. So either you can keep this in an oven for approximately 2 hours at 80 degrees centigrade, or in you can expose to UV for a brief period of time, for a few seconds. So the objective here is that during this baking stage, the DNA molecules or the DNA fragments, they get permanently attached to this nitrocellulose membrane, which is helpful obviously for the subsequent steps. So next is baking. So after that, this is the nitrocellulose membrane with the DNA fragments. So as you can see, the relative position of the band, of all the bands, they remain exactly the same even after the transfer from this agarose gel into this nitrocellulose. Objective of this particular study is to find out whether a few specific DNA sequences are present, or DNA strands or DNA fragments are present in my sample or not. So for that, a few oligonucleotide probes are created. Oligonucleotide probes work exactly same as the primer, which is being used in PCR. So what they do is basically they will come and bind only when they will find their complementary sequence. So when and where they will find their complementary sequence, they will come and bind there. So that is the working principle of this particular technique. And also these probes are radio labeled. So they are radio labeled so that they can be identified later on. Okay. So like this, these are the radio label probes, which are then I mean, this is basically the hybridization step, where these are allowed to react with the DNA samples present in the nitrocellulose membrane, these oligonucleotide probes. And again the hypothesis is the same. Wherever they will find their complementary sequence, they will go and bind there. So okay, so this is like this. So suppose these are the bands, let's assume these are the bands where obviously you won't be able to see like this, but just for the understanding purpose, these are the sequences where the complementary sequence for this oligonucleotide prime. So these are the sequence where they have found their complementary sequence, so they have gone and bind with them. What exactly happens here is, suppose this is the sequence of the oligonucleotide probe. So what they will do is basically they will scan through all these DNA molecules here, and whenever they will find their complementary sequence, they will go and bind like this. So suppose this is a stretch of DNA, wherever suppose here they have found their complementary sequence, so they will come and bind with this. Next, there is another step, that is the washing off. As you can clearly see, so many of this oligonucleotide probes are used for this study, and obviously not all of them will go and bind. So in the next step, this unbound oligonucleotide probes, they are washed off so that they don't create any hindrance during the next step. And so after that is being done, after this washing off is being done, then this nitrocellulose membrane will be exposed to X-ray. And after being exposed to X-ray, when X-ray will be passed to that, or when the autoradiogram will be generated. So wherever these oligonucleotide probes are bind with the DNA bands, those bands will be illuminated, as because these oligonucleotide probes are radio labeled, so they will be illuminated under the X-ray. So it will look something, the autoradiogram will look something like this. So these are the bands, or these are the DNA fragments where this particular oligo probes have found their complementary sequence. In other words, these are the DNA sequence of interest, or gene of interest, or marker of interest, which we wanted to find out using this particular technique. So this is how this particular experiment is being conducted. Now coming to the applications. So detection of mutation, deletion, and gene rearrangement of DNA, this is the one of the main applications. Now as you can see, if any specific area, an oligonucleotide probe is created for complementary to that particular area. So if there is any mutation or deletion in that particular, or gene rearrangement in that particular stage of DNA, then obviously the probe won't be able to bind it, because the sequence has been changed, and the probe can only bind with the complementary sequence. So if the probe binds, then obviously there is no mutation and deletion or gene rearrangement. But if any of these things have taken place, then the probe won't be able to come and bind with it. So that is the concept here. Next is for criminal identification and DNA fingerprinting. So for this I have created a separate video. The link for that will be given in the I button. If you are interested, you can have a look at that. Next is detection and identification of transgene in transgenic individuals. So as you know, in transgenic individual, obviously some or the other foreign gene has been incorporated into this. So to identify or to know whether that particular gene has been transferred properly or not, so you have to prepare some probes which are complementary to that gene, and if there is binding, or there is that particular gene has been incorporated, then the probes will be able to go and bind. And if they have not been incorporated properly, then the probes won't be able to bind with it. Okay. So that is the concept. And then mapping of restriction sites, and for diagnosis of infectious diseases same way. So if any particular infectious disease, so any probe should be created or will be created which are complementary to that particular the genome of that particular disease causing organism. And if they are present, if that infectious disease has actually taken place, then that microorganisms will be present there, and so then there will be a binding to the complementary sequence, and if not, then there will be no illumination under X-ray. So basic concepts remain the same, only the different, these are the different ways or different applications of the using the same technique. And last but not the least is the prognosis of cancer and prenatal diagnosis of genetic diseases. Same way this can be done. So prenatal diagnosis genetic diseases, they are basically some or the other mutation in the gene has taken place. So probe which are complementary to that specific gene, that should be created. And then if there is any band under the X-ray, then that means that particular there has been no mutation in that gene. And if there is no bands under X-ray, that means that that particular sequence of that gene has been changed or mutated. That means that genetic disease is present in that particular fetus. So these are some of the major applications of Southern blotting. And so with that, we have come to an end for this video. If you have found this content helpful, and then kindly like and share and subscribe to this channel. That basically gives me the motivation to prepare more such videos. Thank you.